people are still coming in, but we do have an item first on the agenda for an election of a chair. So can I take nominations for a chair for this meeting, please?
I'd like to nominate councillor Quirk.
I'd like to second that, please.
I'll take that as a unanimous thing.
And I'm happy to accept the nomination.
Cool, thank you.
The subcommittee is Caroline Gladwin, Ian Ward and myself, all the councillors. You have the licensing team on the right-hand side, Kevin Winchcombe, Shaw Batchelor and Andrew. And on the left-hand side, we've got our legal team. So that's Jodie Gibson and Stephanie Tapnell, and our clerk, we move on to the housekeeping issues. Mobile phones, can everyone please make sure that their mobile phone is either switched off or turned to silent? Toilets, there are toilets if you go out of the back of the room. Table toilet on the right, gents on the right-hand side to the doors. The ladies is if you go further down that way, down the steps and turn left, there's a left. And a fire drill, we're not expecting a fire drill. So if the fire alarm goes off, please don't use the lifts. Evacuate the building immediately. The stairs are immediately to the left as you go out the door, or to the right as you go down. The point of meeting up is outside, opposite County Hall, by the police station, and please don't re-enter the building until advised to do so by an officer. Minutes of the previous meeting. I'm told by people who were there that they're accurate. I wasn't there, so I can't vouch for that, but I'm allowed to vote on it, so I move to accept the minutes of the meeting. You have any? Minutes are accepted. The declarations of interest. I don't believe there are any declarations of interest beyond that which is on our members' declaration of interest on the council website. Urgent business, I'm not aware of any urgent business beyond the application in front of us. So the title of the application, the right page. Is for the license under section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for the Point Silver Sands Car Park, Embankment Road, Bembridge, Isle of Wight. I don't have a list of the speakers. Have one. Right, okay. Sorry, I do have one. Right. So we have 3 objectors, Mr. Tidmarsh, Mr. Curling and Mr. Thompson. The normal timings apply. Okay. So the if we take it in that order, Mr. Tidmarsh, would you before we start? All right. Well, that's right, okay, yeah. Right. So I will confirm the following. This is procedurally. I haven't chaired this meeting before. My apologies if I'm catching up. No party has the absolute right to cross-examine any other party. Hearing shall take the form of a discussion led by the authority. Cross-examination shall not be permitted unless the authority considers that it's required for the proper determination to properly determine the representation's applications. An equal maximum period of time will be given to all parties in which the present present their case and provide any further information considered relevant to the application or to the promotion of the licensing objectives. Persons speaking can amplify their original representations. However, any new evidence that has not been formed part of their representation may not be taken into account. So anything that you do include that is not consistent with your original application, we hear, but we not take that into account in making our decision. So the running order for today is the licensing officer will summarize the report, and then the applicant has the opportunity to present their case. Then the responsible authorities present the case. Other persons present cases, and responsible authorities sum up. So we'll start with the licensing officer, who will summarize the report.
Thank you, Councillor Quirk. So the application for a premises licence, it was submitted on the 26th of June 2025 by White Knuckle Brewery Limited. Premises concerned is located at the Point, Silver Sands Car Park, Embankment Road, Bembridge, Isle of Wight. The application requests that authorisation be granted to permit the licensable activity for the sale of alcohol on sales only, Monday to Sunday, from 10 in the morning until 2200 hours. During the consultation period, the applicant requested that the timings for this licensable activity be reduced by 1 hour, ceasing now at 2100 hours. Therefore, the subcommittee must now consider the licensable activity for the sale of alcohol on sales only for Monday to Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the evening. So it's 10 till 9 in the evening. As part of the 28-day consultation exercise, applicant has agreed to conditions with the police authority. These can be found at Appendix 3, page 51 of the report. An amendment to condition 7 of Appendix 3 has been agreed between the applicant and the police authority. The amendment has been circulated to all interested parties prior to the hearing. However, copies of the amendment are available at the hearing today, should any persons require a hard copy. The applicant has, as part of their application for a premises licence, also documented measures that will be undertaken should the licence be deemed granted, which will look to further promote and uphold the objectives. These can be found within the application operating schedule at Appendix 1, page 39 of the report. Should the subcommittee determine to grant the licence in whatever form, these measures will be converted into enforceable conditions and will form part of the granted licence. Following the 28-day consultation period, 8 out of 13 valid representations remain outstanding, with 170 representations being submitted in support of the application. Full details of all comments submitted can be found at Appendix 4 and 5, and that's pages 53 to 193 of the report. So, although the subcommittee must have regard to relevant submissions that relate to one or more of the 4 licensing objectives when determining the application, certain details contained within the representations received are not relevant, therefore cannot be considered by the subcommittee. Please refer to pages 16 to 21 of the report for points that can and cannot be considered. So the options open to the subcommittee today, following the presentation of information from all interested parties, is to grant the application as submitted by the applicant, grant the application as requested and with any additional conditions that the subcommittee deem appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives. The third option would be to reject the application. Thank you.
Is the applicant here to present their case? Yes. If you go.
Thanks, Chair, and councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is James Hinton. I'm one of the owners of White Knuckle Brewery, and I'll be speaking on the brewery's behalf. May I also just please take this opportunity to thank the officers for writing such a comprehensive report for your consideration. I don't intend to take much of your time, and I would just like to draw your attention to a few items. Firstly is a point of clarification. Bembridge Parish Council have now withdrawn their objection to the licence and application and now support our proposals, as do the vast majority of the village, and this has been evidenced by the some 170 letters of support that Shane has just referenced to you. We would also like to point out that since we started operating the site on the 4th of July under the temporary events notice, there have been no incidents of antisocial behaviour or reports of any incidents to environmental health or any of the other statutory consultees. As your officer has just pointed out, we are more than happy to accept all of the proposed conditions and would like to reiterate that we will close at 9 p.m. every night. Given there have been no objections from any statutory consultees, including the police, we would therefore ask that you grant the licence in line with your officer's recommendation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. James, you said you would close at 9. I was just thinking to myself, you originally were going to serve alcohol till 10 o'clock. Will you sort of close the bar at 9 o'clock, or will you close the establishment at 9 o'clock?
It's a very good question. When we entered into doing this venture, it was always going to be the fact that we were going to close at 9 o'clock, mainly because the sun sets, even in summer times at 9 o'clock, the wind gets up and it gets cold. But also, we're all local residents who live in Bembridge, so we were very aware that we wanted to make sure that there wasn't any noise pollution after a certain time, if any. So ever since the 4th of July, even operating under the temporary events notices, we have been closing everything at 9 o'clock. It does take a good 15 to 20 minutes to pack the site up with the umbrellas and the bean bags and everything else. But the bar has been shut at 9 o'clock, and we've been calling last orders at 8:45.
Okay.
So by 9 o'clock comes, it's shut. But the bar operates based on a winch system. So we basically just close it up, so nobody can go in or see what's going on. But it was an oversight on the original application because the intention from the get-go was it was 9 o'clock close, and that was it. So apologies if there was any confusion.
No more questions? So we move on to the responsible authorities present case.
So again, I'll start again. Start again. PC Andrew Buchanan from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary, representing the licensing team. At this time, we have no objections to the application for the full licence. And as stated, we've had no complaints or any instances relating to the area since he's been running under 10s over the summer holidays.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, there has been people going into the area well over midnight, sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning. Although they're not going there to drink, I telephoned the police about this issue, because when they finish, they tend to drive out very fast. It's quite noisy. The response I got from the person I spoke to was that it was not an issue for the police to have people coming in there late at night. But you could clearly see torchlights coming on, people looking around. We've also in the past, when we had the motorhomes there, had drug dealing going on. So I'm not sure what it is, but I did make a request that
Like, that wouldn't then fall under licensing because a public car park is a free area for people to go to, the same as people, I would suggest, go up to Culver Down, go to other different car parks. It's not necessarily linked to the venue being there in that location.
well, if it's people going in and tampering with some of the equipment there, I think it is.
Again, they've not made any complaints to say that they've been tampering with any of the equipment. Mayor, just coming on that, I think one of the licensing conditions is CCTV. We have already installed CCTV. That is on 24 hours now. So the area is being monitored by CCTV, which it wasn't previously. And I have not seen or been subject to any reports of anything being vandalised or damaged of our equipment.
Sorry, Chair, I just wanted to confirm as well, from a licensing perspective, persons that enter or exit the area to where a licensed premises may relate, if it's outside of the licensable hours or outside the immediate vicinity of that licensed premises, then it's for those individuals that enter and exit that area, their actions and their behaviours are their own responsibility. Those actions and behaviours in whatever form can't be sort of held accountable to the licence holder or an applicant for a licence. Your determination on this can't be sort of based upon people's behaviours outside of those hours or outside the immediate vicinity of the licensed premises.
I would make the point that if there was a gate closing off the road leading to there, then there wouldn't be any problems in that way. So it was originally proposed there was to be a gate. There is not a gate. It's a single track road in and out. It's tarmac with some sand on the sides of it. When people drive out at 2 o'clock in the morning at speed, it's a nuisance in terms of noise. And I would point out that White Knuckle Brewery is part of a bigger organisation which has the other vested parties. It's called the White, the White Point or the Point. Okay, so I think there's a collective responsibility, the organisation of this property. It's actually, my perspective, it's a change of use. The area was for sand extraction. I don't know if the council's had any applications for a change of use.
Am I right in thinking that the site was not gated prior to any of the activities that are currently going on there? So there was always the opportunity for someone to drive into the car park late at night?
There was a gate there. There were also speed limit signs on show. And it was a single passage in and out when Bennett's were operating that area.
Sorry, I need to correct that. There wasn't a gate.
Sorry, James, there was a gate.
Mr. Thompson, just to clarify, the licensing hearing today is to determine the licensable activity for the sale of alcohol. Whether there was a gate there or not, it's not something that can be considered when determining this application. As you state as well, Councillor Quirk and Mr. Thompson, there may well be another conversation about change of use for a particular area, but that also does not fall under the Licensing Acts regime. That would be under more of a planning matter, which I'm sure will be addressed at a later date. It cannot be considered today.
May I just say, I wonder why there wasn't such a planning review.
Mr. Thompson, the planning discussion is separate from the licensing.
Hello, good morning. I'll just interject there just to reiterate what my colleague, Mr. Batchelor, said is that the licensing hearing today is to determine the license and the licensable activities in accordance with the Licensing Act and the licensing objectives. In reference to any planning matters, in particular the change of use of the car park or anything beyond that, that would be for Mr. Hinton and the White Knuckle Brewery to address our colleagues in the Planning Authority. It's entirely separate to this morning's hearing.
Well, there is a precedent with, I think it was Pie Guys that were rejected by the planning people.
And that would be something that the White Knuckle Brewery would need to make an application to planning colleagues. And they would then decide and determine that application on its merits in relation to planning objectives, separate to the hearing this
But there
morning.
is also a problem now, the amount of traffic going in and out. It's a similar situation.
And again, that would also be addressed in terms of looking at a planning application. They would consult with highways, with island roads, again, with, other matters to look at factors such as traffic. The licensing objectives are what we're here to discuss today. Should there be other matters that needed to be overcome from planning, then Mr. Hinton would need to address a different committee, put in a separate application and address a separate committee for that. To not want to deviate this morning, we need to look at what's in front of us for whether they could be granted a license or
I
not.
accept saying, I just feel that it's strange that there wasn't a planning application made. And that means that you've actually set up a series of temporary event notices without actually looking at the change of use.
And again, those temporary event notices were applied for and granted within the framework that supports the temporary event notices, lawfully, that don't require planning permission for those. That's again in regard to the licensable activities.
And
So
then-
that if you have a look at the framework and what the temporary event notices were granted under, that again is a separate issue. Licensing is a separate issue to planning permission.
I think my point is that we are suffering from excessive noise, both the lorries coming in and out. And that's a danger when you've got cars and also with pedestrians going in and out. The sign has been put up for the pedestrians not to use that path. And yet it's something they've had a right to do so for over 60 years. So they still are going in and out in what is deemed to be a single passage with lorries reversing in, no real visibility of the people that may be walking ahead of them or coming out from it. So, this was discussed at the last meeting with Bembridge Parish Council. And unfortunately, they couldn't actually get that clip to work on their computer. It is there, and I have a copy of it.
I think we have to come back to the licensing criteria. We're straying off into planning and environmental health issues, and they're not relevant to this discussion. So any debate that we have about it, we will have to ignore in making our decision. If you have issues relating to access to the site, things of that nature, that's a planning issue. If you have issues relating to noise disturbance or something like that, that's an environmental health issue. They are different groups of officers who are responsible for those, and they are actually by law excluded from taking those issues into account, making the licensing. Doesn't mean they're not issues, but it does mean they're not part of the licensing. Right. Can we move on to the presentations from the objectors? Are you happy to go in the order that I read it out? Mr. Tidmarsh, Mr. Curling, and then Mr. Thompson? Oh, Thompson. So, Mr. Tidmarsh?
Yeah, sorry, just to confirm, I'm not objecting, I'm supporting. So if I'm in the wrong place, you must tell me.
Okay, but still start.
So I am just speaking on behalf of the others that have written in, lending my support here, not to duplicate what's already been said, but it seems from most, if not all of the people that I've spoken to, that this establishment is a brilliant establishment from a community standpoint. And everything else has followed from that. So it's all about community, and that was very much reflected in the parish council meeting that we had. The upswell in support within the village and beyond of Bembridge, I think, has been perhaps a pleasant surprise for those businesses that have come together, because obviously it will probably add to the coffers. But I think it's more important that it is about people and community, and that's why the point is such a good thing.
Thank you very much. Mr. Curley.
So I don't live in Solent Landing. I live in Sandcove, which is one little road over. And my family bought the house 100 years ago, 99 years ago, correct myself. So I know the point pretty well. I've lived here all my life. And last time I was in this chamber, I was in support of the Village Green application, which was on the point in Bembridge, which specifically to enable community to use the beach, to have access to free. And I completely support that proposal. And there's many things, sorry, Andrew, which I really support about what's going on. You know, I think the additional boat hire, great idea because it enables people to use the beach. I think, you know, I think the slow-mo, the saunas is a good idea. The thing that I object to, and the reason why I focus my objection is on the white knuckle license, which I do for a number of reasons, partly for technical reasons, which Shane is familiar with and which he summarised so accurately and well. Thank you, Shane. You know, I have on my files my father's objections to the Smuggler's Barn, which was at the end of Beach Road until 1970s. Not relevant to this application, I grant you, but it just gives you an indication of the issue that has existed for 100 years now of excessive drinking at times on the point. Yeah. And if you look at my next door neighbours' windows, they have been vandalised in the last 2-3 weeks. I don't necessarily say that's connected to white knuckle, but there have been stones thrown through the Coast Guard turret window, which is a historic building on Beach Road. You will see that there are planks missing from my fence and from my neighbour's fence where they get ripped off to use for late night fires on the beach. And that then goes with noise. No, I'm not attributing that to white knuckle and the license. And James, Billy, is absolutely correct. I mean, you know, it has been closing at 9 o'clock. The lights do go off at 9:30. Yeah. And this contrasts, though, you know, when I was a kid, I could see the whole way to Brading Haven. Yeah. That was before the, you know, the sea buckthorn went in and so on and so forth. My own house was the last building ever built on the point in 1917 because it was the seaplane base. You know, it's a mess for the seaplane base in the harbour during the First World War. Right. Until you installed CCTV and the lights, it was a dark area. Yeah. And it's one of the very few dark areas actually left in Bembridge. Yeah. It's no longer a dark area. It's a lit area because, you know, 9 o'clock license, it was dark at 8 o'clock last night, sunset 8:05. You know, it will be increasingly lit up. We just heard that there will be 24-hour CCTV on the area. You know, this is absolutely a fundamental change in the nature of the point, which should be for community use And as the village green stipulates, it's for recreation, sports, promotion of good being, good health. Yeah. I am just not aware that drinking alcohol and sitting at a table promotes good health. Yeah. I don't think it's what the point should be about. And I don't think it's the sort of tourism we should support. I acknowledge there's a lot of people who support it, because who doesn't like the opportunity to go and sit on the beach and have a drink? Of course, I get that. But I just think that enshrining this in a permanent license, which seems to me to be putting the cart before the horse. I mean, let's get the planning sorted first and then apply for a license. So, I mean, I just think it's completely the wrong way round, and that, you know, because now the license will be used as justification to give planning. No, absolutely should not be. You determine the use first and the license after. So, I mean, I don't want to take up much more of your time. I think you're all probably getting the perspective, quite a lot of which possibly doesn't come under licensing law. But I, you know, if you deem it appropriate to grant the license, I think the hours should be more limited. At the moment, I think you're operating 12 to 9. Don't understand why 10 in the morning is necessary.
The law as it stands requires us to look at the application that is in front of us.
Yep.
It's not about speculating about what might happen or what might not happen in
Yep.
terms of planning. I can understand from a planning perspective that you know, there are potentially issues one way or the other, but they need to be raised through planning. And from a commercial perspective, it costs a lot more to put things through planning committee than it does through licensing committee. So you might be quite a sensible business decision in order to know whether you're going to be able to do what you want at the end before you go to the quite substantial cost of going to the planning application. So, but here we are dealing with the issues relating purely to the license, to the 4 licensing principles. And I think most of what you've been saying is about planning.
I acknowledge that. Can I just say a couple of details? I mean, perhaps for James and other people to take on board. I mean, the demarcation between what is car park and what is village green is not clear geographically. Yeah. And I think it should be made absolutely clear. Yeah. Apart from anything else, cars are not allowed to park on a village green. So it needs to be, you know, when it's not.
Can I,
Yeah.
so it has been marked out. So the area of the car park at the moment was previously being used as a car park, and we've installed timber knee rails around the big area of the car park to demarcate that. So it is
not
very,
between the village green
Yeah,
and the car park.
no, so there's 3 areas basically. There's the car park, where the licensed there, where the brewery, sorry, where the cabins are to house the brewery and the catering, and then the village green. So there's 3 areas basically. So, and the car park is demarcated now. And we've been in contact with, again, the statutory consultees, Coast Guard. We've installed barriers. We've given the Coast Guard all the combinations to the barriers. They're welcoming the proposals because they can actually access the beach now. But this is true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is true.
I don't know
Yeah.
about that.
So we have tried to work with everybody to actually enable the area to be used again. And the Coast Guard are really grateful of this because they can actually get to the beach now, which before they couldn't. So we have tried. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, it's a licensing issue insofar as there are still tables with barcode ordering on the village green.
Again, I'm not disputing that. That's given by the 1864 statute of village greens. That's not a licensing issue, in my opinion.
It is a licensing issue because you're not allowed to sell alcohol on a village green.
Sorry, Councillor Clerk, as we've said, Mr. Curling, the permissions were to whether you can sell them on the village green or not is a planning issue. The activity of the sale of alcohol is what we're determining today, not where you can actually consume the alcohol. Consumption isn't deemed a licensable activity.
if you're got an organisation which is selling alcohol, it can sell it where it likes in the whole of the point. It can sell it in my garden.
The actual sale of alcohol, the appropriation, the putting of the pint or the serving of the wine into a vessel is the licensable activity. That isn't taking place in the area to where the seating is proposed. I believe it's taking place within the container that is provided, that is on the land itself. The consumption of alcohol
Well,
isn't the sale of
Well,
alcohol.
I'm just telling you, and I will show you the picture, that that's not the case.
The current activities are in accordance with temporary event notices, Mr. Curling. The premises licence, which is being determined today, will, if it is granted, in whatever form, will structure how the activities can take place. So at the moment, there are temporary event notices in place. The premises licence, which we're determining today, will
So
obviously,
that will have-
if it's granted, will structure how it goes
They will
from here
have to
forward.
remove the tables from the village green area with the barcode ordering on it.
We're hypothecating about what could happen rather than.
Well, it's what happens if you deem it
and
appropriate to
if-
grant
if-
a licence.
If
Chair.
licenses are not followed, then licenses can be reviewed. And there are inspections of licensed premises to ensure that they are complying.
Absolutely, absolutely, councillor Quirk. Yeah, any licensable areas that have licenses, yep, inspections do take place. Compliance is sought and action is taken if compliance isn't identified.
And licenses can be removed if people don't comply.
That's correct, yeah.
May I just ask another question? In terms of the current licensing, or sorry, the 10, it was given on the basis that it was moved to an adjacent area. Yes? Is that correct? Yeah. And yet it hasn't actually totally gone to an adjacent area. It is actually still spilling out onto the green.
Mrs. Thompson, I can explain that and I will. It's not relevant to this particular application determining premises licence today. But as I said to Mr. Curling, the appropriation, i.e. where the drink is being pulled, where the pint is being pulled, if you like, or where the glass of wine is being poured, that is where the licensable activity is taking place. People that are consuming the drinks that are being poured or pulled on this area to which you are referring to, that is not where the licensable activity is taking place. So they are permitted to sit on those seats in that area and consume the drinks that have been pulled in the area to where the temporary event notices relate to. So the licensable activity is where the appropriation takes place, not where people are sitting consuming the drinks.
But I'm interested as to why they had to move it in the first place to put it to an adjacent area when it's not actually.
Yeah, Mr. Thompson, I think this particular point is not relevant to this hearing and it's not relevant to this application. It's not relevant to this application. We cannot consider this when determining this application.
It appears nothing applies to this particular 10.
If you want to stop people having a drink on the beach, you need to get a local exclusion order that allows that. They do exist in other parts. I don't know whether one exists in Bembridge. If it does exist in Bembridge, then that precludes consuming alcohol in certain public areas. That they do exist across the island. They certainly exist in the Bay and in Ryde. I don't know the status of Bembridge, but talk to your local member and they can probably find out for you. Mr. Thompson, would you like to?
No, I go. Probably said more
You've
than
got
that.
most of the you want anything further to add?
Well, I mean, I just think the hours, I mean, I think on June the 21st, when the sun sets at 9:10 or whatever it is, then the 9 o'clock cutoff is appropriate. I think for 10 months of the year, it's too late. Yeah, I think it should be, I don't know what time it should be. But if you deem it appropriate to grant the license, then I think
Licensing hours
should be an earlier cutoff time.
Licensing hours.
Because otherwise we will be lit up like a Christmas tree right the way through the year, and that will absolutely ruin the point. just ruin it.
Officers
And
can-
that's, I think, the problem with this application generally, is that it's, you know, that it's not looking at the, you know, the way we want our tourism to work and the way we want our community to be. I really passionately believe that point area, not the organization, should be, you know, a dark recreational area, not something which is lit up for consuming alcohol. I believe that passionately.
The office can confirm this, but the licensing hours are not mandatory that you have to open at 10 in the morning and close at 9 at night. That's the hours within which you can open. So from a business perspective, if it's a rainy day in December, I suspect that they may well not want to keep it open until
Yeah,
around.
it's a bit northeasterly.
Night,
It's staying open, I agree.
But that's just an observation. Any more
Yes,
comments, questions?
just
points?
one more from Mr. Hinton. Jamie, when we talked last, you were talking about if you didn't get the licence, you pull out the post and leave it for the motorhomes. Was that said in jest or?
Chair, I'm not sure whether this entails a cross-examination of me.
Chairman, can I interject here, please? Any questions to anyone needs to go through you as chair,
Okay. yes.
okay? Cannot be cross-examined and they have to be relevant to the application.
Okay,
So if we can please maintain that. I understand there is some confusing around planning, around Village Green issues, which are all very complicated and not necessarily easy to understand unless you work with them on a regular basis. The issues that we need to can deal with today must remain to licensing matters. And we will need to consider those at that point in time. When you do sort of delay the meeting to go and make your determination, your legal advisor will be able to advise you exactly what you can and cannot take into account. And I do understand for you gentlemen, that it is quite a complicated process. Lots of different legal legislation that comes into it and regulations that makes it all quite complicated. And I fully understand that. But your legal advisor will be able to advise you accordingly. Any issues that remain outstanding thereafter, we can always feed back through Shane to the gentleman that sat in front of you today. Hope that helps for all of you concerned.
yes,
Jodie, was there anything you wanted to add? Was that? Thank you.
Councillor.
I would just like to ask a question of Mr. Curling, and I just wanted to know what your opinion was of when it was the motorhomes that were at the site, what your thoughts on that was, and also how long that was actually the case, and how long ago it was that they actually left. So I was just wanting to know your opinions of the motorhomes, because it does seem to be a better use of the land, obviously.
I think the motorhomes, I mean, I'm sure Andrew does as well as I do, but I mean, the motorhomes obviously were an eyesore, and Andrew's completely correct. It attracted a lot of activity, which would much rather not be there. I mean, I suppose my ideal, you know, and they were there because there'd been no care taken about demarcating a car parking area. You know, there's a brilliant car park on the Dover, you know, which, you know, you put your money in the slot, you park, walk to St Helens Beach, and that is the sort of model I would love to have seen on the point, but Malcolm Thorpe was too idle and too self-interested to take into account what the community actually wanted, which was to control that area. Now, I think there are some great things about what has happened. Clearly, the demarcation of the car parking area is good. I agree with Andrew that actually it was better to have more cars or have a greater area for parking and less for sitting and drinking. I think the balance is wrong. I think it's too big. And it doesn't get noisy, but it gets noisy, if you know what I mean.
I think we're sitting.
And I
You know,
think,
I
yeah.
can hear it in my garden.
I think it's helpful to understand the context behind your objections, and obviously we had objections available to us within the officers' reports
Yeah.
again. But once again, we're straying beyond
Beyond.
the licensable activity
I
and the,
understand.
absolutely, completely understand that. And as I say, it's always helpful to have some context, however, to determine the licensing in front of us.
And the ideal solution for me to answer the,
Absolutely.
you know, your question,
And-
sorry.
and-
I can't
and
see-
Appreciate that it's
You know.
also important that applications and supporters as well as objectors
Yeah,
are heard.
parking should be controlled. Yeah, of course. And that was the problem with the motorhomes. It wasn't controlled. The area had been abandoned. Yeah. The, you know, the adjacency to the village green for me is fundamental. Yeah, because, you know, at the moment, sort of, if you want to go and use that area, you park, walk through a pub, and then you get to the village green. Yeah, it would be much better if parking should, you know, be a separate phenomenon, if you like, so that people can actually park and go to the village green without having to go through a pub. Yeah.
Help answer your question.
Well, I was wondering what sort of problems you did actually experience when the motorhomes were there. And I was wondering how long ago they actually were.
Well, they were moved on.
Well,
We're
may
going
I-
into planning issues here. This
We
is-
are,
yeah,
and this application isn't relevant to the motorhomes. So
Just
But may I just
I was
make,
just
Going down the line down here.
sorry, may I just answer the question? It started in January 2020, when they first arrived, start of COVID. There were no facilities for them, and the local toilets had been closed because of the COVID situation. Okay, it took nearly 5 years to get them out. Push came when they were refusing to move, and I spoke with the harbour owner.
Chair, may
Can
I
I- yeah,
interject
can I
at this point,
for the
please?
sake of expediency, can we bring it back to the?
Chair, can we please
application?
focus on, and
Yeah,
it,
we're straying a long way from the licensing objectives. Councillor Ward, do you have any questions?
I don't, Chairman, no.
Chairman, may I suggest that if there's no more questions from the committee, that will you then proceed to summing up, giving everybody an opportunity to sum up and remind people to please keep to the licensing objective and the issues here under the licensing act and not planning or village green issues. Thank you.
Councillor Gabbard, do you have any further questions?
No, I don't.
I think the report is quite comprehensive. I think if no one else has got any points they wish to raise, it's probably time to sum up and look at the going into camera to make a decision.
Chairman, each of the people have the opportunity to sum up. So you would start with the representations made by the members of the public. So as we take everyone in reverse order. So it would be the two gentlemen who are objecting, the supporter, the responsible authority, the applicant, and then the licensing officer. Thank you, Chair.
So, want to have a final sum up? So, Mr. Tidmarsh, you want to?
Yeah, no, it's the other way around.
Other way around, sorry, other way around.
Mr. Thompson.
Mr. Thompson.
Yeah.
And I think the objections that I've published and the objections of those who have also published but are not here today is that it should not proceed for for the reasons that they've all explained. Meeting at Bembridge Council, Parish Council, first one was very productive. They were obviously looking at what they could do in terms of assisting the area, in terms of employment, but also looking at the impact on the residents. The second such meeting was not at all like that. There were, if I recall, 2 or 3 people who actually spoke at that meeting, 3 in fact, in favour. The others just said, what a wonderful idea. It was all sort of puffery. That's what we want, etc. There was no real consideration of the impact coming from that side. So when I actually looked on the Point's website, sorry, Bembridge Point website for White Knuckle, a lot of posts that went on actually came off again in terms of objections. And a lot of the effort that was put into that in terms of, yes, this is a marvellous place, we all want it, if only I could come down from London and go there, those sorts of things, they were not really objective. They were just the opposite. So from my point of view, from the point of view of those members that we have written sections, the wrong thing, I think it shouldn't be given.
Anything to add?
I think I've had my say.
Sorry.
I think you know how I feel about it.
Anything else to add?
No, nothing other than I've said already. Thank you.
No, Chair, thank you. I've got nothing further to add.
Licensing officer, sum up.
Nothing to add.
Okay. So then the subcommittee will deliberate.
Chair, can you just let if the licence officer could sum up, he'll give you a full appraisal of what you've listened to and what you should need to determine going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a few points really. Obviously, other concerns have been raised today, and they are acknowledged. However, such matters cannot be considered by the licensing regime and the subcommittee. They can be addressed, but they must be addressed separately by a separate regime, such as planning and other local authority processes. So please bear in mind that. The behaviours of persons and their actions when they enter or exit the site, or whether when they're around the immediate, outside of the immediate vicinity of the site to where the licence application relates. Therefore, matters of those individuals, they can't, the licence holder or the applicant, as it is today, cannot be held responsible for people's behaviours or actions, such as vandalism, antisocial behaviour, when they're not within the vicinity of that licensed area. They are for their own individuals to decide how they behave and how they carry out their actions. Each application must be deemed on its own merits. Therefore, the need for a licence to be in this particular location cannot be sort of determined based upon other things that have been there in the past, or maybe other licensable premises that are around the vicinity at the moment. After considering all the available information prior to and during the hearing, it's the view of the licensing authority that the granting of the premises licence with agreed conditions is not likely to have a significant impact on one or more of the 4 licensing objectives. In addition, the licensing authority takes the view that the conditions agreed between the applicant and the police authority, as well as measures marked out in the application under section M, which will be converted into enforceable conditions should the licence be granted. They're both proportionate and appropriate when considering the nature of the business, inclusive of the times and licensable activities that are being proposed by the applicant. Therefore, members should determine the application in accordance with section 35 of the Licensing Act 2003 and the Licensing Act Hearings Regulations 2005. Just to remind the committee that their options open to them today are to grant the licence as per application, grant the licence as per application and with any additional conditions that you may deem appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives. The final decision that you may take would be to reject the application. Thank you.
We will go out and make this decision in camera, so we can have a free and frank discussion about it. You're all welcome to stay for the outcome. And if you need a comfort break, this will be a good time to take your comfort break, and we'll just go into one of the rooms opposite. Thank you very much.
Whenever you're ready, Chair.
We've reached our decision and over to our legal advisor to read it out.
Thank you, Chair. Upon receiving the report of the licensing section, both the oral and written evidence from the applicant, the responsible authorities and other persons, and having regard to the guidance issued under section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 and the Isle of Wight Council's Statement of Licensing Policy, the subcommittee hereby grant the licence in accordance with the application, subject only to those conditions proposed by the applicant within the operating schedule and found in the officer report at Appendix 3, subject to the mandatory conditions specified in the Licensing Act 2003. In reaching the above decision, the subcommittee have had regard to the Human Rights Act 1998 and in particular Article 1 of the first protocol, Article 8 and Article 6. The subcommittee consider this decision is proportionate and appropriate for the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives under the Licensing Act 2003. There is a right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court if anyone is dissatisfied with this decision, and any appeal must be made within 21 days of the date of notification. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending and we will close the meeting.